Ranked at number 8, we have the Little Prince. Ever since the removal of the 3-card cycle, the Little Prince has completely fallen out of the meta. He benefited a lot from the 3-card cycle because he used to cost only 3 elixir, but now he feels extremely weak on his own. The meta doesn't support him in any way, therefore his use rates have taken a big hit. Currently, the Little Prince has a 1% use rate, with only a 47% win rate in ranked mode. There are basically 2 reasons for the Little Prince's downfall. Firstly, the popularity of spells like Fireball and Poison has really increased recently because of the 3 Musketeers buff. Secondly, there are way too many strong ranged cards at the moment which do a far better job than the Little Prince. Musketeer, Baby Dragon, Ice Wizard, literally every other ranged card is better than the Little Prince. His ability also seems less effective against popular cards like Royal Hogs. I mean, obviously, the piggies can fly, so the Guardian's Dash no longer hits them. Even against other popular win conditions like Golem or Royal Giant, the Little Prince failed to deliver any value. Here's a surprising stat. No player is using the Little Prince in top 200 leaderboard. There are absolutely 0 meta decks that feature the Little Prince. The card has truly fallen off. Other champions are just way better in the meta right now, and because you can only have 1 champion in your deck, it seems just foolish at this point to even consider using the Little Prince. At number 7, we have the Goblin Stein. The Goblin Stein was briefly good last season, but this month, it just sucks. It does extremely bad against everything that is popular in the meta. 3 Musketeers, Royal Hogs, Royal Giants. The Goblin Stein's useless against all these win conditions. It's very rare that the Doctor's ability even gets some value. Otherwise, most of the time the Goblin Stein acts as a normal card and lacks that champion feel. And the biggest problem is that it costs a massive 5 elixir. Costing 5 elixir and providing no value at all just makes Goblin Stein a terrible card. For Goblin Stein to get value, you need to have a bunch of enemy troops between the Doctor and the monster. If that happens, the Doctor's ability can literally wipe out the entire horde of troops. But that's really rare nowadays. Players are getting smarter and they make sure that they aren't dropping all their troops together. Therefore, the Goblin Stein isn't as dominant as it once was. At the moment, the Goblin Stein has a 1% use rate with a 50% win rate. These are some really bad stats for a champion card. No decks really use the Goblin Stein nowadays. You might see it in some mortar decks, but that's really it. The Goblin Stein can be a decent card in lower trophy ranges, but when your opponent starts getting better, it becomes a really easy card to counter. Therefore, you can no longer rely on the Goblin Stein to provide you enough value to win matches by itself. Ranked at number 6, we have the Boss Bandit. This card took the Clash Royale World Finals by storm. The Boss Bandit has seen good metas despite so many nerfs, and it's still a very overpowered card in certain situations. But now in this meta, she feels a little underwhelming as compared to the other champions. She's a great punished card, but she's not suited for a meta like this. Most decks, which are fast and have swarms, can easily counter her. Therefore, she struggles against the top win conditions of this meta: Mortar, Royal Giant, and 3 Musketeers. The Siege archetype featuring the Mortar and Expo also does well against the Boss Bandit. Her attacks can be unpredictable, which makes it really hard for casual players to defend against her, but pros can deal with her easily. Currently, the Boss Bandit is in a really interesting state. She doesn't particularly do that well against the 3 Musketeers, but if you combine her with a spell like Lightning, she can win games by herself. The Boss Bandit is a major asset in the bridge spam decks. Battle Ram is the number 1 win condition paired with the Boss Bandit, but we're also seeing her being paired with a new Royal Hogs evolution. Together, they are a devastating combo. A key thing to notice is that the Boss Bandit is not used outside of bridge spam decks. Therefore, her use rate is only 2%, and she has a 50% win rate. The next few months will be important for the Boss Bandit, as she can soon become a dead card if the meta keeps being bad for her. At number 5, we have the Monk. The Monk is a seriously annoying card because of his ability. The way he can deflect projectiles using his ability is really game-changing. And in this meta, the Monk is a really useful card. He can deflect the attacks of the 3 Musketeers, giving you a huge positive elixir trade. While he is best synergized with Royal Giant decks, you may see him in some off-meta bridge spam decks too. This month, the Monk has a 3% use rate with a 50% win rate. The Monk deals heavy damage with his regular attacks too. Therefore, he can counter mostly any mini-tank plus ranged unit push coming your way. A great way to get tower damage is to use the Monk's ability as soon as he crosses the bridge. This way, the Monk will deflect the attacks of the crown towers, giving you some nice chip damage. Although the Monk costs 5 elixir, his ability ensures that you extract enough value out of him every time. Currently, the monk is in a decent spot. He's broken against projectiles but weak against swarms, so decks which run a lot of swarms like Mortar, Logbait or Royal Hogs can give him a hard time. Adding the monk in your deck can make your defenses easier. His pushback on every third attack is another thing that makes him broken on defense. He doesn't die to any spells because of his insane HP. When there is a monk on the field, the opponent has to think twice before dropping his spells. Use this to your advantage to spam your offensive troops behind your monk. The monk is one of the few cards that always delivers. Therefore, he's a champion that you need to play in your deck. But do you know what else you need to do? Hit that like and subscribe button because we're so close to 100k subs! At number 4, we have the Archer Queen. The Archer Queen is probably the most reliable champion of all. She deals insane amounts of burst damage, and her ability basically screams value every time. She can counter big pushes all by herself, giving you a massive elixir advantage. Costing 5 elixir, she can only be taken out instantly by lightning. With not many direct counters, the Archer Queen is a card you can always expect to win you games. She's a threat on both offense and defense. You can activate her ability anytime and wipe off whatever troops your opponent deploys. If she locks onto the opponent's tower and you use her ability, it's basically game over for your opponent. The Archer Queen has some of the best stats out of any champion. She currently has a 4% use rate with a 50% win rate. Personally, I think she's the best ranged card in the entire game. She's also perhaps the most versatile champion. You can find her in a ton of decks like Royal Hog Earthquake, Expo Cycle, Bridge Spam, Mega Knight Spam, and Hog Earthquake. In this meta, the Archer Queen remains a reliable choice to use in your deck. She may not be the best counter to the 3 Musketeers or Royal Hogs, but her ability ensures you get decent value. Lightning is super popular in the meta, so you might want to use her more offensively than on defense. Overall, the Archer Queen is a superb card to use if you like a balance of defense and offense in your deck. At number 3, we have the Golden Knight. After receiving a rework earlier this year, the Golden Knight has gone from being the worst champion to being one of the best. I feel like he's still quite underrated though. People treat him as just another support card, but the reality is that he's a very major offensive threat. I mean, the stats don't lie. He has a 5% use rate with a 51% win rate. The Golden Knight is used with 3 Musketeers, Golem, Bridge Spam, Graveyard Freeze, P.E.K.K.A, Royal Hogs, you just name it. He has an insane attack speed and deals so much damage per attack. In fact, he can beat mostly every card in a 1v1. His dash is extremely unpredictable. You can use it whenever you see an opportunity to line up his dash on the enemy tower. A major reason why his dash is so powerful is because its cooldown is only 8 seconds. So most of the time you can extract 2 Golden Knight dashes. That is unreal value! The Golden Knight has seen a rise in usage because of 2 factors. Firstly, there are a lot of swarms in the meta. The Golden Knight's dash literally just deletes all the swarms instantly. This makes him a great counter to all those annoying bait and spam decks. Secondly, bridge spam decks have received many direct and indirect buffs lately. The Golden Knight is a major asset in bridge spam decks, therefore his use rates rose as well. But it's no denying that the meta clearly favors a Golden Knight right now, and he's gonna be dominating the game for quite a while now. At number 2, we have the Skeleton King. With the rise in the usage of swarm cards, the champion that benefited the most is the Skeleton King. Nowadays, it's impossible to see a Mortar Bait or Skeleton Barrel deck without the Skeleton King. Swarms complement his ability perfectly. When they die, they end up boosting the Skeleton King's ability, which basically makes him a walking graveyard. You have to waste a spell on the Skeleton King's ability, else you can end up taking a ton of damage. But don't spam the ability recklessly. Only use it when you know your opponent doesn't already have a counter on the field. The Skeleton King has decent hit points, but doesn't deal much damage. So you always need to pair him up with a high damage dealing card on defense. The new Evolved Skeleton Army pairs really well with the Skeleton King. Therefore, you will see this annoying combo in many spam decks. In fact, the Skeleton King is quite popular in this meta and has the highest win percentage out of any champion. Currently, he has a 4% use rate with a 52% win rate, which is honestly great. The Skeleton King is a great card to use in your deck because not only does he pair well with swarms, he also counters them. His ability allows him to do well against bridge spam and logbait decks, both of which are popular archetypes in this meta. The only downside of the Skeleton King is that his ability is really matchup dependent. If your opponent doesn't have swarms or has too much splash splash damage in his deck, his ability becomes useless most of the time. Still, he is a must-have card in your deck if you like fast decks with a lot of swarms. The Skeleton King would have been the best champion in Clash Royale if he also performed well against beatdown decks. But that's where the Mighty Miner comes in, and he is our number 1 pick on this list. The Mighty Miner is the champion that benefited the most from the removal of the 3-card cycle, and the reason? Because he is broken even without his ability. For 4 elixir, you're getting a tank with a shit ton of hit points that also acts like a walking Inferno tower. This makes the Mighty Miner one of the 15 cards every free-to-play player should upgrade. But what are the other 14? To find out, click on this video.